my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to hear more content from me, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And also, if you're interested in a personal consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of topics. Please check out the video description. I will leave my contact information there. Thank you. So today's video is another one that has been requested, and I did say that I was going to make it, and it's long overdue. And it's namely about Mars to Mars negative aspects in synastry, or difficult aspects. Namely, I'm talking about Mars square Mars, Mars opposite Mars, and Mars quincunx Mars in synastry. Now, like I mentioned in the introduction, I do mostly focus on the Vedic astrology perspective, but when it comes to these interpersonal aspects, I look at the Western tropical aspects as well, because I have seen them to be true, basically. And so I'm talking about Mars quincunx Mars especially, because this is probably the most Western aspect. And okay, so let me start with the beginning. So what is Mars exactly in a personal chart? A personal chart, Mars represents your drive. It represents the way you go about achieving your goals, the things that you are interested in. It represents your passions, what makes you get up in the morning, basically. It also represents your physical biorhythm, meaning like your level of energy, especially on the physical plane, and your sexuality, how you express your sexuality, and your physical body. It also literally technically rules the sexual organs as well, but I won't get into that. But basically, Mars is connected to fighting spirit as well, and blood, like from the biological astrology perspective or medical astrology perspective. And yeah, and the head. So it rules the head and everything to do with the head. So basically, but overall, when it comes to one-on-one aspect, the main thing that it rules is your drives and how you go about doing things. And also in a woman's chart, it represents the kind of man that she finds physically attractive, or the bad boy archetype, but not necessarily the long-term boyfriend material, which is shown by Jupiter. And so basically, when you have Mars square Mars, once again, I remind you that the square means that two signs have the same modality, but they have different elements. Meaning that, so for instance, Mars in Aries is square Mars in Cancer, which means that Aries is cardinal fire and Cancer is cardinal water. So they have the same mode of expression, which is cardinal. So both of them are direct and active, proactive, when it comes to getting what they want, but they do it in different ways, different arenas, because one of them is a water sign and it's more indirect and more based on emotions, and the other one is a fire sign and it's more passionate, more direct and aggressive and extroverted. So basically, the square, although it is not the most difficult aspect to have in synastry, it still poses some significant challenges. Obviously, if you want to see the full chart compatibility, you have to look at all of the aspects that two people have between each other's charts, and you also want to look at the composite aspect, the composite chart, to see the aspects there. But just based on this one aspect, basically what this square shows is a lot of irritability. Basically, it shows that whenever you go about doing or achieving what it is that you care about, you are irritating your partner, or you might feel like you basically step on each other's toes. It's kind of like It's kind of like, think about a dance where you literally step on each other's feet instead of being in sync with one another. So it's really the opposite of what you see with the Mars conjunct Mars situation, or with the Mars trine or sextile Mars, all of which I have made videos on, and I will be linking in this video description if you're interested to learn more about them, just as a parenthesis. But basically, it is really not a harmonious blend of energies. It basically means, first of all, that you want different things, or sometimes it, depending on what the house placements and what other aspects you get to this particular Mars, you could be more or less in sync. So, for instance, let's say you do have, one of you has Mars in Aries and the other one has Mars in Cancer, but you both have Mars in the second house, for instance. You have it in the same house. Then you will have a little bit more in common, because at least you're both going for the same things. But the way you are going about achieving those things is totally different. So basically, the modus operandi, the basic modus operandi of each of these people is totally different. So, yeah, obviously, depending on which two signs you're talking about, there are going to be different interpretations, but this is a general interpretation. So basically, that's the short of it. You're going to step on each other's toes, and your biorhythms are not going to sync. And also, when it comes to sexuality, you're probably going to have different ways of expressing yourself and different needs on a physical level. It also shows, like, literally every physical activity that you try to do with this person could bring a level of irritation. Again, depending on other aspects, depending on nakshatras as well, and the lords of the nakshatras and how well they get along. This will be more or less intensely felt. But basically, yeah. And so unless you have like softer aspects in synastry that will tone down, this will kind of be like a clash of, like, you're going to clash horns basically a lot. And it won't be necessarily like a struggle for domination, but it will be like each of you wants to have your way. And it is unlikely that you're going to be good at compromising unless you have softer aspects, like you have Mars conjunct Venus, or you have like Mars conjunct Moon, or you have Moon conjunct Venus or something. So some of the feminine planets also being aspected as well. And that's pretty much what I could say. A famous example of a couple who had this was Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. Now, I'm not saying that this aspect was the only reason why they broke up. They have a bunch of harsh aspects in synastry. In fact, Angelina Jolie had her Mars conjunct her Moon and Jupiter, so Brad Pitt's Mars was squaring also her Moon and her Jupiter, and they also had some other difficult placements that probably eventually led to their breakup. So don't freak out and think that this is going to single-handedly end a relationship. It is a more manageable aspect, which is also why I didn't list it as, my top aspects to watch out for. I made a video called Red Flags in Relationships, where I talked about the main aspects that I've seen, or the main placements and astrological configurations that I have seen connected to relatively negative outcomes in synastry. So I haven't listed this one as well because it can be managed, especially if you have other positive placements, but it's still going to cause some irritation, and it's good if you are aware of this. So basically, if you are looking for a partner that you want to do everything with, you want to go to the gym with, and stuff, again, when it comes to the bedroom, you're going to have to learn to compromise for each other's rhythms and what you want and all this stuff. But basically, yeah, it's going to take some work to make this one happen, because otherwise you're just going to keep clashing horns and be like my way or the highway. Okay, another aspect is the opposition, like I have explained in the other videos where I mentioned this aspect. It is a little bit better than the square, because with the opposition you have the same, you don't just have the same modality, but you also have the same polarity between the signs involved. So for instance, you have, let's say, Aries opposite Libra. Both of these have the same modality. They're both cardinal, and they're also both masculine, which means that they have the same polarity as well. So it's a little bit easier to manage than the square. The square is pretty much going to be like ongoing present irritation, but with the opposition it's more of a game of give and take, you know. So there's still that potential for irritation and conflict and butting heads, but overall you will feel more motivated to maintain the relationship because each of you feels balanced by the other partner. Right? So when it comes to the opposition, it's kind of like, you know, it's back and forth. So one of you will be, you know, when you're looking, for instance, at Aries and Libra, right? Libra will appreciate Aries because Aries teaches them how to be a go-getter and confident and extroverted and, you know, more aggressive, and to just stick up for what they want. Whereas Aries is going to appreciate Libra because they're diplomatic and they're teaching them how to be more rational and better at negotiations, for instance, etc. So you can work together more harmoniously than in the square situation. But obviously it can still bring clashes, as you would expect. Because opposition is opposition, right? I mean, yeah, you're on the same line, but you are at opposite ends, basically. And yeah, but this is generally a more positive one. Like I said, you're basically going to have more motivation to keep this going because you're each going to be getting more out of the relationship than in the square situation. And it's more of a balancing act with the opposition. I couldn't find actually of any examples of famous couples who have this aspect, but I have seen it happen in synastry a lot, so it does happen. So yeah, and the other one, the last but not least, is the quincunx aspect, which those of you who come from the tropical astrology background, you know what the quincunx stands for, but just very briefly, quincunx refers to 150 degrees between the two signs in question, or basically the signs, so basically the signs that are on either side of the opposition sign will be a quincunx. So for example, for Aries, Libra is the opposite sign, and Virgo, which comes before Libra, and Scorpio, which comes after Libra, are the signs that it forms a quincunx with. When it comes to the quincunx, however, now, because I also focus on the Vedic astrology perspective, I actually look at these as energy, so I don't really look at the orb as much. But obviously, the tighter the orb is, the stronger this aspect will be felt. So basically, in other words, if I see, let's say you have Mars in 15 Aries, and you have, maybe not 15, okay, but let's say you have Mars in 5 Aries, and you have, the other person has Mars in 25 Libra, sorry, not Libra, Scorpio, let's say, I would still consider that to be a quincunx energy, but I wouldn't think of it as intensely, I wouldn't think it would be as intensely felt as if the other person's Mars would be in 5 degrees Scorpio, so like you would have less than a 1 degree orb, right? If that makes sense. And obviously you also want to look at nakshatras and nakshatra lords and house placements and all that stuff, and aspects to each other's Mars, because for instance, like if you both of you have, let's say, Mars conjunct Moon in your natal chart, you're gonna have some basic energies in common with regards to that Mars, so it's gonna be easier for you to compromise and understand each other when it comes to your Mars energy. And obviously if Mars is in the same house as well. But yeah, the quincunx, basically this is probably the most I would call it the most difficult of these three, because it is the aspect where the two planets have nothing in common. So normally, like I mentioned, so with the opposition you have two signs that have the same polarity and the same mode of operation, meaning cardinal, fixed, or mutable. And with the opposition, you have the same, the opposition. So the opposition is the same polarity, the same mode of operation, and with the square, you have the same mode of operation. So in each of these cases, the two planets have something in common. But when you look at the quincunx, they have nothing in common. So like if you take Mars with either of these, they don't have the same polarity. With Virgo or Scorpio, I mean, they don't have the same polarity and they don't have the same mode of operation. So they literally are like completely alien to each other. So I would say this is really the most painful aspect, even though it is not the more likely to be conducive to, for instance, outward aggression or arguments, but it's more like a silent killer in the relationship, if that makes sense. I have experienced this with various people throughout the years, and it's like just literally you don't click, really. Like on a deeper level, you just don't feel like you click, at least not when it comes to the Mars energy. Obviously you might have other supportive aspects that do work in your favor, but when it comes to, you know, Mars quincunx, the other person's Mars, you're basically going to feel like the way you go about things, the way you do things is going to be totally different. Like you don't really understand each other. And obviously when it comes to intimate relationships, this is even more relevant. Like one person could, I don't know, be all romantic and emotional, the other person could be like, I don't know, athletic for example. And yeah, so it does present a certain challenge, but once again, if you do have better aspects in synastry, like if you have a lot of the traditional romantic aspects going for you, like Venus conjunct Mars, Moon conjunct Venus, Sun conjunct Moon, etc., then a lot of the negative effects of this are going to be mitigated. But otherwise, if you have a bunch of other negative aspects in synastry, this is only going to make you feel like the relationship is not really worth it, because you just have so little in common, at least when it comes to the way you go about achieving your things and the way you do like everything on a day-to-day activity. Because once again, you know, Mars is about the physical body and how in sync you are with the other person's physical energy, basically. Yeah, so if one of you is like, yeah, like I mentioned before, so for instance, in this case, if you have Mars in Aries and the other one is Mars in Virgo, like the Mars in Aries is going to be very straightforward, very active, extroverted, go-getter. The Mars in Virgo is going to be rational, analytical, going to get bogged down in details, and it's gonna drive the Aries person nuts, and and the Aries person is gonna be driven nuts by Virgo being too analytical and attention-oriented, detail-oriented, blah blah blah. So yeah, this is just an example, and an example of a famous couple that I came across who have the quincunx is Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Yeah, so obviously they have managed to make it work for a long time, but they do have other good synastry aspects. And yeah, this has been it. This is my take on the difficult Mars to Mars aspects. And once again, if you're interested in finding out more about the Mars conjunct Mars and Mars trine or sextile Mars, I will be linking those videos in the description. And once again, if you have liked the video, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And if you're interested in a personal consultation, please check out the video description. I will leave my contact information there. Thank you.